पहले क्या होता था, इतना कोई जानता नहीं था, मम्मी भी बार बार बोलते थे ऐसा कौन सा क्रिकेट खेलते तो टीवी में नहीं आती है।
That was Renuka Thakur speaking to Star Sports about women's cricket when no one really cared much about it. It's different now. Women's cricket is a world unto itself, with professional leagues mushrooming all over the globe, including the IPL that will begin next month. Before that, though, Thakur and rest of her teammates will get a shot at more glory with the Women's T20 World Cup underway in South Africa. India opened their campaign against Pakistan in Cape Town on Sunday, but this feels like a good time to pause and reflect at the direction in which women's cricket is headed, the potential challenges, and the endless possibilities. Welcome to Express Sports Podcast, and you're listening to Game Time with me, Mihir Vasavda, and making his Game Time debut today is Venkat Krishna. Venkat, welcome, and what a week in cricket. We have Surya Kumar Yadav making his test debut, and we have you making your Game Time debut, and I certainly have no doubts which one is the bigger of the two achievements.
Hi, Mihir. Excited to be back. Excited to be part of the show. I've been listening to you for a while, and it's like, excited like Surya Kumar Yadav as well, I can say.
Would you like to thank anyone right now?
I mean, not definitely. I mean, I have to thank you for including me in the show because you have been avoiding me for long. So.
Well, we thank you for taking time out of your extremely busy schedule, chasing all the fancy cricketers and, should I say, boring administrators and spoil your sources, Venkat, already?
No, it's okay. I mean, I don't think any administrator is very excited to talk. Yeah, everybody is boring for us.
Well, they are source of our bread and butter. But well, Venkat, when we started our journalism careers, I don't know where women's cricket was at back then, because it's time we shift our focus to the topic that we'll be discussing today. I mean, it's extremely crazy, right? This journey that women's cricket has taken. I mean, this is the last time I'll be using women's cricket as a phrase together because, that distinction between men's and women's cricket, I think it's slowly getting blurred. The lines are getting blurred, but they're doing extremely, extremely crazy upswing of everything, right? I mean, how was it like when you started your journalism career? What was it like back then for women and cricket?
Honestly, Mihir, I don't even remember whether we carried any news item related to women's cricket on our pages. Yes, there was odd instance where if Mithali Raj or Julan Goswami did well, we used to carry the small snippet item or as a small single column, but that's about it. That's that. And the kind of coverage we have right now is completely different altogether. We know each and every player profile of each and every player. This wasn't the case before. Hardly anyone, at least I can speak for myself. I hardly knew even a handful of cricketers, women cricketers. And there was a time where I wasn't still interning. I was at M. Chinnaswamy Stadium in Bangalore. And the first instance of meeting a women cricketer, it was somewhere down the line in Jan 2010, I believe, where Julan was there at the NCA. And instantly I went to see one of the Indian cricketers practicing over there. I don't remember who, but I ended up getting an autograph from Julan Goswami. That is the first memory I have of seeing a women cricketer in flesh. But since then, the game has just gone like leaps and bounds. I mean, it's terrific. Probably it didn't get the due recognition back then, but off late, especially in the last 6-7 years, it has completely changed a lot.
What has changed? Because I mean, if you were to put numbers to it, right? I mean, 2009 ODI World Cup final between Australia and England. This was at North Sydney Oval, and it saw 2,300, 2,400 people watching that final. And then 11 years ago, we were back in Australia at the MCG, where the T20 World Cup final saw a record attendance of 86,174 people. That's a huge number by any sport, any standard. What changed in this 11-year period for women's cricket globally?
I think overall, if you look at it, the growing influence of social media and even visual medium has played a huge role in it. I think we can't undermine that fact at all. Earlier, the women's matches used to be rarely be seen on air on Indian television screens. Probably Doordarshan might be willing to show it. Other than that, we hardly saw any women's game. But again, until we give something to the audience, you never know whether they like it or not. I think that's what it has completely changed the landscape in the last few years, because we get to see each and every game being televised right now. Whether India plays at home or abroad, we see each and every game which is being broadcasted live. So, which is like a significant thing for women's cricket. It was not the case earlier. We used to, yes, the World Cup used to be live, and then games pick and choose. They used to show here and there, but that's about it. Right now, it is totally different game what we are speaking about. We not only see like players like being hooked onto television and stuff, even audience for that matter. They want to see more and more even domestic matches. That is where there's a seems to be push from the audience as well. If you follow some of the matches on Twitter, there is like always a cry from some of the avid cricket, women cricket followers that why not certain matches not being broadcasted even on OTT platform. So I think that is where the key change has happened. It's like entirely generational shift has happened. Like yes, the old audience have like the current Indian audience want to watch a lot of women's cricket as well. Like, it is that it is giving them something to watch. Okay, it's men are playing, yes, but women's team is equally playing good cricket. I think that has also contributed a lot.
So it's an answer to the always this counterpoint that everyone had, right? I mean, especially for all those who really weren't interested in women's cricket that much, the counterpoint always was that it's a market reality that drives any sport. And in women's cricket, there really wasn't much interest to kind of rile up its finances, generate interest, get TV, get people behind it. That was always the counterpoint which was being made. I mean, we look at, say, for example, the men's football team, the Indian men's football team, and they have similar struggles there too. But somehow, like, women's cricket has kind of banished that image. I don't know what has changed in terms of market realities in these 5 years that you're seeing each and every match being telecast live, packaged so well, produced so well. And it also shows in the way the team has been performing, Venkat, right? I mean, one thing has festered the other, but in terms of market realities and the whole economics driving the sport, is there a significant turning point there?
Definitely. I think for the starters, I think the BCCI started believing, yes, women's team also can contribute to its economy, to be honest. Because, see, the job of like doing the marketing and stuff is completely up to the administrators. The women players are not supposed to care about whether they're going to bring income into the game. Those things are not their headache at all. Their headache should be about like what happens on the field. But we have a society which likes, yes, even though sports is a non-profit thing, we expect sports to bring some income as well, which is why there are the game was lagging behind others, probably say like Australia and England. But after the BCCI women's cricket came under women's BCCI's umbrella, the entire outlook has changed, with ICC also like putting a lot of emphasis on women's cricket with global events and stuff. The BCCI also has had to like do a lot to improve the scenario across India. See, there are even instances where the women's Twitter handle has been like women's BCCI handle has been totally dead for a long time until like say a game happens. Yes, that's how it is. The reality is still the same. So unless you build this marketing aspect, it has to come from the BCCI as well. They have to like listen, yes, you girls are like women are getting a lot of money now, especially with the launch of a women's Premier League and the growing audiences. They are getting a lot of eyeballs as well. So this is the time for them to market the team well. It's like there is everything in the platter. The players are performing. You have like star performers like Harmanpreet or like Smriti Mandana, Jemima. There is like she can just set the social media on fire. So you don't need anything. There's Harleen Deol, who are all like being very, very candid and like very nice to see even out of television screens in terms of like if you're talking about say advertisements or like Insta Reels or whatever. So you have everything in your plate. It's just about like marketing in a better way from now on. If that happens, I think automatically the game will like grow even leaps and bounds in the coming next 2 years. I see there is going to be a huge potential in how the game is shaping up, especially if India end up winning this World Cup. I think there can't be a bigger boost to the women's game across the world.
No, absolutely. But if we take a step back, Venkat, I mean, if we have to go back to the 10-11 year period between 2009 World Cup final and the 2020 T20 World Cup final, I mean, Australia have always been a strong sporting nation. They've had a very strong women's cricket team. England always claim that they're the pioneers of any sport, any event. So those two countries had a robust system. But while they were building on their women's cricket structure, how was India responding to that at that point? You're talking about the marketability and these young players coming up with really confident profiles and everything. But how was India reacting to the changing ground realities in women's cricket? Because I remember, was it 2015? A women's World Cup was played in Mumbai, and it was tragic the way it was held. 2014 or 2015, I remember covering matches at a ground in Bandra in Mumbai, which was practically Sachin Tendulkar's warm-up area. I mean, the ground was that small. The entrance to that road was dug up. There was no space for any spectators. I mean, there wasn't even an effort to get any spectators, no seatings, no publicity. And you played at a ground like that. And from there, now you've gradually moved on. So that at that point, it kind of gave me a hint that there wasn't a lot of interest in women's cricket back then. So how did that mindset change, and how was India reacting to the growth in women's cricket elsewhere in the world?
I think for long, they were just sleeping giants. India just refused to wake up. They're not even they were consistently on a snooze mode. We didn't want to wake up. We don't want to wake up. We don't want to wake up. That's all they said. And then when they're pushed to the brink by the ICC and people started criticizing the BCCI, they started showing some interest towards the game as well. We have had a president who famously said, if it was a choice, we wouldn't even let you play. So that was the mindset that BCCI administrators had at point in time. But over the years with...
Really? Who was that though?
I mean, allegedly it's like N. Srinivasan. That's what reports say. That sort of a mindset to have, that sort of a mindset to where we are now, it itself is like a huge step that BCCI has taken. And right now, we are still at a stage where the BCCI can still do a lot to strengthen its domestic system. We always talk about Australia and England being top teams in the women's circuit, and rightfully so, because they have a strong domestic system to back their cases. They have excellent pool of players to choose from. If say, beat anyone, if a player X walks out today, they have another Y ready in place. They don't need to fret over it at all. But with India, it's not like that. You're in a point where if tomorrow Smriti Vandana is not available, you're not going to find a replacement straight away. It's going to take time. That's where the reality is right now. So for that, you need to have a strong domestic system in place. I think this year the BCCI introduced a new tournament, the Under 16 tournament, that was on the Under 19 World Cup as well. But it's a significant thing because when you have an Under 19 World Cup, what happens is more and more teams, state units will start having its own resources as well for the age group thing as well. From what I gather, in the recent past, there have been a lot of interest among the age group level, where a lot of girls have enrolled themselves for coaching program in state associations, which in itself is a significant thing. It was not the case a few years back. More and more, around 40, 50 are joining for each camp. So even if there are a couple of them make it, from each association, you're going to get around end up having some 60 people, 60 players for an annual camp. There's going to be a phenomenal number to just contribute to the national scheme of things. So that is where the key part is. I think the BCCI has just woken up late in terms of the matches that are being held in India. For instance, the senior women, they play around just 15 matches a season. That is not even enough. You should ideally be looking at somewhere, say, around at least some 25 to 30 matches. That is what will give the players the time to grow as well. You don't want, yes, we have had Shafali Verma, Richa Ghosh, all teenage players making international debut for India. But I don't know whether it is a good thing to have, because these girls are just coming out without going through the grind of domestic cricket, where they are not experiencing the enough highs and lows. So they're not going to be exposed to all sort of situations that they're going to encounter in the international arena. That never happens. So it will be ideal that, okay, they let them go through 2-3 domestic seasons. Then they will be matured as well as a player to face what sort of each and every situation they've encountered in international arena.
So right now, if we were to kind of look at it, there isn't a structured system in place to spot talent, to get players in the team. But at least in terms of interest, I'm assuming the 2017 Women's World Cup, where India reached the final, they defeated Australia in the semis, lost to England in the final at Lord's. But that defeat kind of also sparked a revolution, if that's not too strong a word, right? I mean, you mentioned Venkat earlier of the kind of impact World Cup win in South Africa would have on women's cricket, but we actually saw what kind of an impact it had just by merely reaching the final. And the after effects of it are even felt right now, aren't they?
Definitely. See, you need certain things, certain aspects of the game, be it any sport, certain things to catch imagination of a young kid watching it. I think Harmanpreet's knock against Australia in the World Cup just did that. Like, it was incredible, isn't it? Like, you always search for such moments. You like, it was just a hurricane knock, you can call it. I mean, I still remember where I was watching the game. There was a period where I would like, I mean, I wouldn't be like, if there is a game of women's cricket and there is some other cricket men's game which is in cosmos going on, I would watch that. Because why? The reason being, it's like the game is not as quick as the other sports. Like in tennis or in athletics, whatever it is, the pace of the game between the genders is not too much. But in women's cricket, there is a lot of like there's a drop in at the pace at which the game is being played. I think right now, I think that is coming a lot closer as well because of the T20 cricket and stuff. Their players get to play some, even women cricketers play a lot of breathtaking shots as well. And with shorter boundaries and sixes coming in, it's like makes it very exciting as well. Like that is completely a shift has happened right now. And yes, like you said, that World Cup became like a sort of a game changer for the Indian cricket. It came at a time when nobody expected them to go even to the final. And suddenly they go to the final. There are like, it's like almost everybody is supporting. There's like, everybody is like saying like, yes, I've been watching. It's like the closet audience have all come out supporting the women. And from there on, it just like took off.
It's like Manchester United fans, Venkat.
Yeah, of course. Yes, of course. It just came off. He just hit it right on the nail. Like it just came off like everybody. And then gone. It's like there is Smriti is coming. Now you see advertisements being like, you have like a lot of these players coming on advertisement, which in itself is like just shows like where they are in the Indian ecosystem, especially the marketing ecosystem. They are all like being like seen as a presentable faces and stuff, which itself is a story in itself. Everybody have come through a lot of struggles. You mean, mind you, our society is not still a place where women are allowed to play a sport, and to play a sport like cricket, which has always been linked with men, is definitely not easy at all.
Absolutely. You mentioned Harmanpreet Kaur's outstanding knock against Australia in the semi-final of that World Cup. Well, that was 117 unbeaten runs in 115 balls, which set India on course to a famous win. A win which, I mean, I don't know. It's almost like what Kapil Dev did in 1983. It had a similar impact, if it's not exaggerating it too much, but it just feels that kind of a knock. And that's the great thing about women's cricket now, isn't it, Venkat? Because, I mean, earlier, especially when we were young, it's not like we are very old right now, but when we were younger, it was always about Julan Goswami or Mithali Raj. And that's where the team, the knowledge, the performances, everything started and ended. Now we have a team which has multiple stars, which has players who are ready to put their hand up given in any given situation, no matter what the opponent is, what the tournament is, what kind of situation they're put in. It is just a multi-star team rather than just relying on one or two people.
Totally, Mihir. Like, imagine, like, I mean, there is like a lot of hue and cry about why Shikha Pandey is not being included in the side like last 12 months. That is where it has come to. It's like we are not talking about the players in the 15. We are talking about a 16th player who's not even part of the squad. I think that is a phenomenal growth, I would say, and which is excellent. Now there is no Mithali, there is no Julan. This is the first World Cup for India without these two, and still is the interest the same. The interest have only increased a lot among the audience. There is like Smriti, there is Harman, there is Shefali, there is Richa Ghosh, there is Deepthi, there is Rajeshwari, there is Pooja, there is Yastika Bhatia, there is Radha Yadav. Like you can name it, everybody know them. Okay, these are now household names, which in itself is like terrific to see how far the game has grown in the last few years. Yes, they have been like performing really well as well, even in bilaterals, even in ICC tournaments, reaching the semi-finals and final, and being in the podium in the Commonwealth Games as well. So when these things happen, the people also start reading and getting to know more and more about them. That is thing. I think that's where the huge where the game has traveled a lot of late. People showing interest, just not watching, getting to know them. I mean, that is where I find the game has grown across India as well. And these players are all not just coming from the mainstream Indian cities; they are coming from the northern belt as well, in Haryana or in like Uttar Pradesh or in Maharashtra, or so, which is really interesting. It's not just limited to Bangalore, Mumbai, Delhi, Calcutta. It's not like that. It's like they are coming from remote places as well. That's a heartwarming to see such stories coming up. We saw in Under 19 World Cup the sort of struggles some of the girls had to go through, even the socio-economic factors, keeping those things in mind. And it's just like you read those stories, you feel like, okay, this girl should, like, yes, they deserve to go all the way and like even win the title. That's what you feel. You don't wish them anything but success. You just wish them, okay, these girls should win. That's the sort of thing it has making everybody rally behind this team as well, I would feel.
Absolutely. And I guess the IPL comes at a very crucial stage for them, isn't it? Not just for the players, but also for the overall health of the game. Of course, the money hopefully will pour in for them. You have endless scope of developing younger players. I mean, look at what IPL did to men's cricket, the kind of talent it started producing. If even a fraction of it happens to women, then we are looking at a great possible era of domination of Indian women's cricket, isn't it?
Definitely, Mihir, definitely. People don't know what WPL is going to do to women's cricket in India. Like, I mean, it's like, see, what IPL did is like it didn't just allow some of the players to rub shoulders with the world's best. What the franchises are also doing is like they have expanded their base. They are having camps. They are having a lot of talent scouting sessions. They are going out of their way to improve the cricketing ecosystem in India. Yes, the most of it lies with the state associations, but the franchises are also doing a part. They are like spotting a talent. They're asking them to like come for trials, turn up for trials, and when they succeed, they are like being sent to like get a chance to audition themselves as well. These sort of things were like unheard of. There are players who have been missed by the cricketing system, or also do get a second chance through IPL. So I think that is where even the WPL is gonna like contribute to Indian cricket. Given the amount of money these teams have invested, they're not going to just sit back and say like, okay, this is what you are going to do, this is what our boundaries are. They are going to do everything they can to improve the quality of the game in India. Yes, the infrastructure will change, everything is going to like just get a boost, which is like going to be, yes, it will not happen like in 24 months, but it will like probably in like 3 years. You don't know where the game is. It's going to be like, if you are going to sit and talk in next 3 years time, the landscape would have been completely changed. And with that, again, like, to go back to what we discussed earlier, we are going to have the pool of players in India is just going to multiply by like 2 or 3 times to what it is right now. That in itself will like help India to be in a position where they can dominate world cricket as well, or to go toe to toe with Australia. The why we always speak about Australia has a wide pool of players to pick from. India hasn't had that. Like, even if 1 or 2 players just misses out on a crucial game, our fate is like sealed. That will never happen. That won't happen going forward. You'll like, just like how men's cricket has, like, there have been like talks of why not we can have like India A, India B. It's a similar sort of a thing will emerge in women's cricket as well. Probably like in 3 years time, yeah, we'll have like good pool of players as well. At least 30 good cricketers.
It's fascinating, and in that context, to conclude, Venkat, it's mighty important, this World Cup, right? I mean, of course, I really don't want to say that the future hinges on this competition, but it certainly will boost if India manage to reach semi-final or a final, or who knows, go ahead and even win it. I mean, India haven't had a major ICC trophy for 12 years now, so the wait has been long, and this could be the chance, right?
Definitely. See, from looking at how the format is, I definitely see India going through the semi-final. If they don't qualify, it's gonna be like a big shock. I think semi-finals is it's a guaranteed. But if they can go one step further, go enter the final, then it's anybody's game. Yes, probably they might run into Australia again in the final. But again, it's like, this is what, if you want to become the best, you got to be the best in the world.
Exactly. Yeah, Australia have been gold standard, so it would be kind of fitting. Yeah.
Exactly. And by chance, Australia end up losing the semis and India go through to the thing, they get an even better chance, I feel. because looking at how they have like gone to South Africa way ahead of some of the other teams, they have played in a tri-series, they have got enough time to prepare in the conditions in South Africa. So you can't say like we are not prepared anymore. That topic is completely gone, and you still don't know what sort of a pitches you're going to get this time for the T20 World Cup, because mind you, the South African pitches have become slower on the tire, have become little tiring of late because of the amount of cricket being played in the country. So if it is going to be on the slower side, it could end up benefiting India a lot, because India has the resources, be it with the ball or with the bat, to do well in those conditions. Even if it is like comes okay, it's going to be slightly on the quicker side, then again India still has like good pool of pacers to make their 11. So either way, it's India. I feel they have like good balanced squad. If they don't have any injuries or anything, I think they have a very good chance of even winning the title. I would definitely count them to be among the favorites to win the title. Yes, there is Australia, there is England, but I honestly feel this is like a best bet for India to win the title. They have everything in place. They never had this sort of a preparation before. They never had such a controversy-free ICC tournament like this. So everything seems to be falling in place for them. Yes, there is no head coach of late after Ramesh Pawar shifted to NCA. That is one thing they would have ideally preferred, having a head coach who had like worked with them for the past 12 months or so that they know what is to be done. But again, they have Rishikesh Kandekar as a batting coach, who's going to develop as a head coach as well. He's one of the, he's tactically, we have seen in domestic cricket, he is very tactically good as well, which an area which I think the women's team needs some help. So it has, if everything can like go according to the plan, as per the plan, if the plan A, plan B, if they have in place, if they follow to the T, I think they'll have a wonderful chance of ending up on the podium.
No, that's great enough reasons to follow the Women's World Cup. India are in Pool B alongside England, Ireland, Pakistan and West Indies. Top two teams from the pool advanced to the semi-finals. And at this point, before we end today's episode, let's bring in our producer Shashank. Shashank, I mean, it's exciting for us to see women's cricket such rapid rise. I mean, it's not so long ago when it was almost like an act of activism to ask for women's IPL or for women's team to be broadcast on television. But now everything's falling into place. From your point of view, how do you look at it?
I feel really bad because my knowledge of sports is very poor, but my knowledge of women's cricket is even poorer, right? So I can name, men like Indian male cricketers, but women cricketers, for example, I'll be hard pressed to name more than 5 maybe. And that too, just the usual names, Harmanpreet Kaur, Mithali Raj or Poonam Yadav, things like that. But beyond that, like my knowledge of women's cricket, it's still very poor. And I guess it has to do with because I only end up watching cricket when my dad switches on and puts on TV. And I have never seen him, for example, watch women's cricket. But he's also from a much older generation. So that hasn't trickled down to me.
It's interesting, right? I mean, how we all end up watching sport. I mean, largely it's what's being played on TV at home. And until now, women's cricket was never on the menu. Hopefully that will change. Hopefully that will change starting this World Cup. Lots of storylines to be followed, lots of players to be followed. And, well, we will be bringing all the action to you through our pages in the newspaper and through Game Time. For that, you'll have to keep listening to us like you did today. Thank you so much for that. Thank you so much, Venkat Krishna, for joining us. And thank you, Shashank, as always, for patiently being in the background and doing all the hard work for us. We will be back next week.
You were listening to Express Podcasts. Today's show was edited and mixed by Abhishek Kumar and produced by me, Anviti Singh. If you like the show, then do subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. You can also recommend the show to someone who you think will like it, share it with a friend or someone in your family. It's the best way for people to get to know about us. You can also tweet us at Express Podcasts and write to us at podcasts@indianexpress.com.